All right, Christian Spicer, you and I have played a new game. We've both been playing the new Legend of Zelda, or as some people are calling it, Legend of Link. Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom, which is Nintendo's newest game in the Zelda franchise. This time, for the first time ever, you play as the titular Zelda. And you actually control her, and she is the main protagonist, which is, I think, long overdue. And I have to say, Christian, as I approached this game, I thought, because I wasn't really super paying attention to all the details of the trailers, I thought this was going to be akin to the Princess Peach game that came out this year as well, which was a very cool game in its own right, but just very different, right? A very, very different approach to a Mario franchise game, right? It's Princess Peach in her own thing, and I kind of thought maybe this would be a less than experience. Not to say that Princess Peach was, but I guess I had it in my head that this was kind of, oh, we'll let Zelda do her thing, but this is not a mainline Zelda game. And I'm here to say, I could not have been more wrong. This is a Zelda with Zelda. Although it has a very lengthy, very linear intro section, sort of long tutorial section, like took me well over an hour, maybe two, playing with my son, where the game does not reveal all of its delights quite yet. I thought, oh, this game is clever and charming and looks lovely, but it's very sort of not Zelda. And then all of a sudden, it becomes a real full-on big meaty Zelda game. And it's awesome. I don't know what you think about it. Tell me what your experience with Echoes of Wisdom is.
I'd love to ask if you could answer vaguely for folks who haven't started yet, or how far are you into the it becomes very Zelda-y? Is there a way we can dance around this and say where we are without?
I mean, I can tell you how many rifts I've closed.
Okay, yeah. Which
is 2?
Okay. I think I've done, I think three okay. Big rifts and, some big dungeons that are not connected. But
there's also like tons
rifts.
of side content that I've done that you could just, like my son and I had this incredibly lengthy boss fight with this like cloud dude that took us so long, but it was so challenging and so fun. So there's lots of side content and lots of, side, like full on side quests. Like literally it says side quest.
Yes.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm several hours into the opening up, but I'm certainly nowhere near finishing the game. And there's a lot of the map that is unexplored for me.
Yes, same. My gut tells me I'm probably a little over a third of the way, just based on I'm sure there's some twist at the end where it's like, you've closed the rift, but just kidding, or something later that lengthens it a bit. But based on rifts I've closed and familiar locations I visited, I would guess a little more than a third of the way through, not quite halfway through of the mainline quest. And that is often because I get distracted by these dang hapless villagers who just need my help. For every little thing. I love this game. I think it is an absolute delight. It is running on the Switch Link's Awakening engine. And for folks who missed that game, it's like, picture those, was it Play School little toys that we had when we were little, with like these little plastic figures, and everything looks like, saying a dollhouse isn't quite right, but kind of like plasticified little versions of everything.
Everything's shiny. Yes. Everything's chunky. Everything, it looks a little clay-ish, like a little claymation-ish, but you're right, more like
or Playmobil,
Play School
whatever
toys.
They were. Yeah. Just absolutely exquisite. I love the art direction. I loved it in Link's Awakening. I think it's fantastic here in Echoes of Wisdom. And there's a little bit of vignetting or kind of blur outside of the main area that, maybe is because they couldn't run the game on Switch without it. Link's Awakening also had that. But I think it adds to the charm. The game does not maintain a constant, 60 FPS by any stretch of the imagination. But for me, the technical limitations have in no way, shape, or form hurt my enjoyment of Echoes of Wisdom. It's not a fast-paced game. It's not Bayonetta, where I need to be in control of my combat of all time. What you are doing in this game is unleashing your echoes that you've collected along the way to solve puzzles with objects or the enemies. Every enemy you kill, you can collect its echo. And so then you can release that enemy later into the world. You are limited by the amount of echoes you can release at one time. Like a stronger enemy takes more power to put out into the world than than like a bat or something like that. But the way that this game is bringing new echoes to you constantly.
Oh, dude, a drink from the fire hose. It's so cool because typically games like this where it's like, hey, we're going to let you build things. It's like, oh, cool. The 5 things that I can build will let me solve every puzzle in the game. That's awesome. Wow, cool. I get a box and I get a ladder and I get this game is like, no. Everything in the world is going to be in your repertoire, in your on your palette of paints, and it makes defeating a new enemy the most fun thing ever because now I get to conjure that if I want to.
So my question for you guys, because the one thing that I love about Breath of the Wild and like Tears of the Kingdom, where when you're in those puzzle sections, it's like, yeah, there is a way to solve the puzzle, but if you're creative, you can do something out of the ordinary to complete. Same with this game.
Yeah, the thing that's so striking to me about this game is that they literally created a top-down Breath of the Wild, I think, or Tears of the Kingdom, in the sense that what Zelda has become is this playground where they give you all these tools and they sort of let you run wild in the world. And this game does that also, but does it from a top-down perspective. And it really does feel like how do you want to? I'm playing exclusively. I have this whole weekend been playing exclusively side by side with my son, passing the controller, like life or level kind of deal. And it is so fun getting into these situations where it's like, how do you want to deal with it? Even just fighting a random bad guy? Which of my cadre of powerful creatures do I want to unleash on this bad guy? Like what you have so many options all the time of what you can do, and there's no one right one. I mean, there are some puzzles that have very specific solution states.
I don't know if they do.
Well, I'm saying the state of the solution is, but you can get at those in a number of different ways, right?
Yeah. It's real good. It feels like a marrying of a traditional Zelda with that Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. Creativity is the extra sauce. It is a traditional, air quote, traditional Zelda in the sense that there are bespoke dungeons, and the dungeons are long and meaty, and it's not just a shrine. I don't want to be dismissive of the shrines. I love the shrines, but it's more than a shrine. It is a dungeon with multiple floors.
It's
levels.
Dungeon Classic. It's get the little keys that'll get you into the world to get to the big key that'll take you to the boss fight. I mean, it's Zelda Classic.
But on top of that, you can probably beat the game only conjuring beds. It allows for that level of creativity that is when it's firing on all cylinders is just exquisite. There are 2 moments that I've had so far. And again, probably a third, under halfway, more than a third through the game, where I was hitting my head against rock, so to speak, of trying to solve this thing because I thought I knew what I needed to do, and I couldn't solve it that way. And I was like, well, that has to. And then I was broken. I can't believe I must have missed something. Like I live in fear of not capturing. There are several creatures that because I forget because I'm just Zeldaing it at times, and I'm like, oh, I didn't get the purple spider. Oh, the game is ruined. But what's fascinating about the game is that it has to let you still complete the task, even if you didn't capture the echo of the purple spider. There's still a million other ways that you can do the thing. So it just requires a little bit of different. Would the purple spider be the easiest way? Maybe. That's clearly what I was thinking I needed, but I didn't because I could do it this other way and use a bat to do this thing on top of a trampoline that, creates this gap that I'm able to then just soar over. All of these little nuanced approaches to solving what feels like a traditional Zelda dungeon, and the marrying of those two things together is what makes Echoes of Wisdom feel super special to me. It's familiar, and then someone came over and was like, have you put this sauce on this, your favorite taco yet? And you're like, I haven't. And you're like, oh, this is now my favorite taco. I am in love with Echoes of Wisdom. In love.
It's a remarkable thing because you're right. In traditional Zelda games, it's like, well, you can't come over here because you don't have the boots yet. You can't go over there because you don't have the boots. When you get the boots, you'll be able to go over there because everything over there requires them boots. That's just not how Zelda works anymore, at least this one and, the last two. It really is this big open world where, hey, how are you going to deal with this? We give you this smorgasbord of options. And honestly, one of the things we haven't mentioned yet is there's a lot of things in this game that Zelda can do that have nothing to do with creating echoes. You get even more skills. You get more magic powers than just conjuring. And in fact, one of my criticisms of this game, I would say, involves the tiniest of spoilers. So skip forward if you don't want to hear any type of spoiler about the kinds of things you can do. But one of the things you learn
Hold on, I'll be right back. I'm just kidding.
is you can sort of transform into Link for short periods of time, which I think is a major bummer because I feel like just let Zelda be the hero, and you can sort of directly like sword slash enemies. Whereas the beginning of this game ushers you into the world, and it's like, no, that's not how Zelda rolls. She's not a sword carrying, sword slashing hero. She's a conjurer. She has the ability to conjure things. Do you want to defeat that enemy? Well, you better conjure an enemy that can fight it on your behalf. And I love that. I love that I'm a conjurer. I've got an army that I can summon at any time. I am a Magic the Gathering-esque summoner, or Hearthstone. I sit back and let my minions fight for me. That's awesome. But then the game is also like, but also if you want to be Zelda, you want to be Link, you can be Link. You can do it if you want. And that bums me out because it feels like somebody didn't have the courage of their convictions to just like let it be her game 100%. And that bums me out. How it's implemented is cool, and there's some limits on it that make it interesting and fun, but it does bum me out that it's not just like, this is it, you're a conjurer. But there are also other skills that you can get, or that you do get, that involve, manipulating things and manipulating yourself in the environment in relation to other things that are really clever and open up such interesting puzzles. And I mean, there is discovery in this game in the way that people love discovery in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. When the first time in those games that you combine a certain item with another item, or use a power in conjunction with something else and realize, oh my gosh, I can do that. That is in Echoes of Wisdom. It is 100% in, like, I'll give you one example. Like you can sort of pick things up at a distance and manipulate them. And my son, excuse me, my son conjured a moblin, or a bad guy with a sword, and then realized he could pick him up at a distance and use him like a weapon and run around, and like the guy's at the end and just swinging his sword. And that's just one example of many, many things where it's like, oh, if I grab this and use it in a weird way, well, oh, I can do that. Oh, they thought of that, and now that is actually, grab the bat and fall off things, and it works like a chicken in Zelda games, and you can glide. And there's tons of things like that where you discover that you could do it, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're just letting me play. Yeah. And which is why people love Breath of the Wild, why people love Tears of the Kingdom. It is present here. And I really, for me, it's very specific to me, but being able to do that from a top-down perspective is like unlocks the joy for me. I just love the fact that it is in that classic top-down perspective, and I'm still able to be that creative and fun. I really like this game a lot, and I'm curious, as I progress through it, my son and I progress through it, if it will continue to wow me. I hope so. I'm really, really enjoying it, and I'm just so impressed. This is a full-on Zelda game. Like, this is a big, meaty. This is not a side content. This is not and Zelda gets her offshoot game. This is a legit Zelda release.
There's a reason why it's called Legend of Zelda.
Yes.
First, right? Like, there's a reason why that is the main title. I imagine you've done this, Jeff, and this is a very vague thing for folks, so whatever. Be warned, but it's very vague. When rifts are sprouting, you've seen it in the trailer, they're terrorizing Hyrule with these rifts, these purple openings, and one of Zelda's jobs is to fix it. You're going in and closing them. And when you go into them, it's called entering the still world. It's been all over their promotional material. The reason I think that this game is going to continue to delight both of us, Jeff, because I think this game is built around delighting its players, is when you enter the still world, even just from the 3 I've done, it plays with expectations in such fun and fascinating ways. There are moments where there's a piece of the world that's been sucked into the rift that is just sideways. And at first I'm like, well, I can't, I guess that's not a dead end. The ceiling is now a wall. And you can hop, build your way to that or hop onto that and do that, and how that changes your perception of the play space that you're now in. It does some really cool stuff with playing with those expectations of what is the floor, where enemies are walking or appearing, how you would engage with them because of how they exist in the space that the laws of physics don't need to apply to. Really, really cool stuff, on top of some of my favorite, recency's a hard drug to overcome, but some of my favorite Zelda dungeons. Like these, again, if you like Zelda dungeons, this game has them, and it unlocks creativity.
One of the things that I felt was most missing from those last 2 Zeldas was I really did miss the classic dungeon. Sorry, go ahead, Joseph.
No, because as much as I really do love Breath of the Wild, I think Tears of the Kingdom has I was like, am I about to cry in the club moment? Oh my God. I honestly might be the most special moment of that series for me. I miss the dungeons. And, I kind of thought the way Jeff thought walking in, was like, I got 5 different things, and that's going to be the game. Should have known better, because you guys are really selling me on this.
It's incredible. It's really, really cool.
And all right, guys. So
I honestly, I had the misconception that it was it's this sort of puzzle game set in the Zelda universe, right? It's like Zelda gets her own game, and but it's different. It's not. No, there's as we said, there's side quests, there's gear, there's crafting, there's a gigantic map with all kinds of stuff to discover. There's dungeons. There's it is a full-on Zelda game where Link, or the main character, has different new powers, and they could have easily given these powers in a regular mainstay Link situation. He could have gotten these powers, but the fact that they're just letting Zelda do it, I think is great. It's awesome. But this is a mainstay Zelda-esque power set that you're given. And you're able to do some really, really fun stuff. And the joy of like, you get an armadillo bad guy that you can roll like a bowling ball, and it ricochets off of things like a ping, like a pinball. Yeah, like pinball. And so half the time I'm like, that's how I want to deal with all the bad guys, because I just so fun. It's just so fun to roll my armadillo at them. But there's like a million, and my son has different preferences for how the things that he wants to use when he gets into a fight. And you just have this arsenal at your disposal all the time. And most of the time it's, okay, I summoned it, let's watch them fight each other. And I'm like, hey, there's a guy who throws a spear, and you're like, throw your spear, dude. Come on. Why? He's like dancing around, not throwing his spear. You're like, just throw your spear. It's so fun to just sort of be this catalyst in the world, which is one of the reasons why I'm a little bit perturbed,
right,
that they also let you be sword swinging Zelda or Link at when you want to, because it's like, no, just like go all in on that. Go all in on I don't have direct ability to fight you, but man, I have all these other options. I don't know. Christian, does that resonate with you at all?
I hear you. It does not bother me. I think the way they introduce the Link power set makes a lot of sense. I think it's a cool ad, and I think the way they put a limit on it fits within the world as well. It's additive, and it never hinders or ruins my experience of what I'm trying to do. And there are a few moments in dungeons that it opens up and I think allows them to intentionally gatekeep a bit, which I like. I'm not saying that as a negative thing. I like that in the Zelda dungeon where you have to have the thing to do the thing. And so I like it. I imagine they pay it off in a fun way in the end. I'm not there yet, but I hope they do. But Joseph, if this is how my Switch dies, it lived a good life. Like
that's what I was about to ask.
If this is the swan song, it's it's Freebird. Everybody will be calling for it. It's great.
Because for me, my birthday is on Friday.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. I am a big Zelda fan. I am, and I'm a dummy for anything that's a collectible of it. That's Switch Lite. I don't need it.
No, you don't need that. You don't need that. Just the game.
Just the game. Okay.
Go buy a Quest.
Share my brother's
Go buy
Switch.
a Quest 3. I'll save you money. Okay. Go buy a Quest 3.
That's right.
You're right. Asgard's Wrath. Asgard's Wrath 2. Right. I got it.
So good. Asgard's Wrath 2 is incredible.
I don't know if there are people that are sitting out Echoes of Wisdom because you play as Zelda and the wokeification. Every game's a female protagonist. I don't know if there are those people. I don't know if there are people that are sitting it out because it's Link's Awakening graphics and that was a remake and I want a new Zelda. I don't know if there are people sitting it out because I heard it chugs on the Switch. I'm just going to wait for Switch 2. Of all of those arguments, the third one is maybe okay, but even that one
didn't bother me.
The performance does not bother me, and this is a top tier Nintendo Legend of Zelda game.
Yeah,
bringing all the hits, and it's gorgeous too.
Really is.
I cannot recommend it enough. I will save everybody money and tell them to buy this game.
So here's the second question, because I would be splitting my brother's Switch alongside myself, because I sold my Switch a bit ago, and with this game's announcement, I'm like, I'm regretting it. But are there different save slots for this game? Okay, all right, so we can have our own profiles. Yeah, no, I'm gonna be making a purchase this week, and I'm gonna be blaming both of you guys.
Well, you're welcome. It's
Again, and for the spoiler free, if you guys are just coming back in because you don't want any spoilers, they gave Zelda a gun. It's pretty wild.
Take that, Pal World.
The turn is that it's Die Hard. But Zelda,
it is very profane. The amount of expletives that come out of her mouth, is like, wow. No. I don't want to leave this topic without reiterating one more time how fun it is to encounter a new bad guy in this game. Just coming around a corner and seeing a new enemy that you have not encountered yet is so fun because you know immediately I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get that. It is a gotta collect them all kind of situation, and you get to actually just deploy them at your whim. It is so much fun, so much fun.
Which is only rivaled by the feeling of hastily clearing an area and then going somewhere else and going, ah, that was a new enemy.
You need to be playing with your daughters because my son will never let me. My son, I swear, is the most methodical. It's like, Dad, we haven't sliced every single blade of grass on this screen yet.
Oh, your son
cannot
is
leave.
me.
And I'm like, just go. He's like, well, what is that? Is that something? No, that is not. That is decoration. Well, let's look in the house because maybe there's. Okay. All right. Anyway, it's fun. It's a delight playing with my son.
Yeah, it looks. I'm on the Target like show in stock in stores because I think I may make a pit stop during work tomorrow. You know.
Well, that is Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. It has been on the playlist for Christian and myself.